Hey everyone, this is Wei and welcome back. Let me show you a quick and easy way on how you can draw wavy hair. So let's get started and I'll talk about the process along the way. Alright, so let's draw this wavy hair. As you can see, there's a lot of hair on this image. Let me see. Right, let me just rough in her face. Just like, there's a lot of hair coming down. Alright, so first thing with when you draw hair, just try to identify the clumps. Okay, so the major curvature, like what is it doing, the flow of it. So if you look at this, I'm just gonna start with her right side. The hair comes down over her forehead. It's gonna come down, kind of like flare out. Let's just say right around there. Okay, if her head is like somewhere like this, like a chin. Okay, so it's gonna come. There's one big chunk that comes down. All right, you see that? So all the way down to her face. And then it turns, right? So this turns, and then there's another clump. So right now I'm just kind of blocking in what the hair is doing. And then there's another clump here that comes in like this and kind of folds over, right? You see that clump. And then there's another one, looks like, and it gets messier toward the bottom, right? So, but it doesn't really matter. We can simplify it. So there's another clump that kind of comes down like this. Okay, kind of comes out like that. And then let's see, there's some, right here, just kind of, first some loose strands on the back, right? So it looks like there's another clump on the back right here. But that's, yeah, we can, and then let's see, well, we can do another one right here. There's one that comes out like that. Okay, and then here, let's see. Okay, there's just like smaller ones down here. You just kind of just follow the curvature a little bit. You know, we don't have to do every single clump, but just kind of nice to know, you know, like the bigger ones. Okay, so that's what you need to do with hair. You know, just kind of separate it and find those big clumps. Like right here, kind of wraps around, right, and then this comes forward a little bit right here. And then this one tucks under, and then there's another one coming straight down, kind of curves out, right? You see that little curvature right there? Okay. And then let's see, where's the chin? Our chin's over here. Sorry. Let's see, and then the hair on the inside looks like it's curving. It comes back, twists around, and then on the back there's more stuff going on. We can ignore that because it's more the same. So let me get back to this side, so we can start shading this. Okay, so it looks like there's a clump coming down here, just slightly, and then this one actually comes from the inside a little bit. Okay, so let's shade this, and I'm just using a 4B, so it's not too dark. So when you shade the hair, try to follow the flow of the hair, like this part right here, how it's coming down. So I'm just kind of trying to follow it, and you see this motion is just like flickering, so that you have a nice tapered, end. So right here is darker, so I can make this a little bit darker. I'm turning my pencil so I can get a slightly sharper edge, and I'm not drawing too big because the bigger you draw it, the harder it is to do hair, because you're gonna have to shade a lot more, and whenever you shade big areas, you kind of have to be a little bit more consistent, and it's a little bit difficult to shade consistently on a big area. So this thing flows, let's see, this way. Okay, so that kind of gives you like the general flow right here. Looks like this clump recedes a little bit. So there's kind of a gradation to it, and that's how hair is, because as the light hits it, you'll get, like right here, there's a highlight right here, right? Like this clump goes back a little bit, that's why it's a little bit darker. And then let's see, and then there's a highlight right around here, and in here it's dark. All right, let's see. So let me shade this dark so you can kind of see a little bit better. Okay, so let's just say that's the side of the face. Okay, all right, so let's do this right here is dark as this curve. This is all dark in here, right? And we need to do that because this will really pop out this edge right here, this whole area. All right, so this is a little bit darker too, so because it's behind this clump right here is behind. So let's see. So we can see that, and it's darker, and then there's a highlight right around in the middle, right? And then it gets darker because it looks like it's coming toward you, or some kind of shadowing. Okay, so very simple, right? You see like, here, let me make the back darker, because the back, and then behind it, there's another clump, right? And it's darker. And it's important to get this edge right here dark, because again, it's the layering effect. It brings out this clump right here that's in front. So just remember that, things are lighter, tends to come forward, and things that are darker feels like they're receding. So very important concept for drawing hair. Okay, and then on the back right here is a little bit, we can kind of, we can make it, or we can kind of ignore it for now, because it's much more important to do the ones that are in front first. Okay, and then we're gonna go, let's see, all right, let's go down, keep going down. Now it gets a little bit messier here, but you can still see it. There's one clump here, all right, and then there's a highlight right around there and kind of ends. So we're just gonna do something like that. So just so that you can see a little bit of the highlight, right? So we can exaggerate this edge right here, this ending right here, a little bit darker. So give this whole thing a little bit more form. Okay, and then so this is in front, and then the ones on the back is a little bit darker. So we can actually, if you look at the reference, this is darker in here, because the hair is gonna flow from here. It's gonna flow out. And then this is darker, flows, and then it gets like kind of crazy, right? You see this, it's kind of a mess down here. So when you try to draw these areas where it's a little bit messy, just try to simplify it. Don't do all those ones that are kind of going everywhere, because there's a lot of little individual strands that go out everywhere. Just try to concentrate on the big stuff first. Okay, so like this is darker here. Let's make this a little bit darker, and I'm just using a 4B so that you can see the strokes a little bit better. It's a little bit sharper. Okay, so now I'm just kind of going back and exaggerate. Well, not necessarily exaggerating, but drawing a little bit more, darker in certain areas. Okay, here's another couple of. You can try to leave a little bit of white, like this. You see how I left some of the white right here, and if you can, just leave it. If not, you might have to go back and erase it later, but with an electric eraser. So that's why if you draw in, kind of block in the clumps first, then you can, it's much easier to identify, the white areas and stuff. So like right here is a mess, right? There's just all this stuff going on, so you can just kind of loosely, just get the big stuff. Kind of curls around. All right, so it's kind of messy, and that's how it is. So your drawing should be a little bit messy at that point, because you don't want to be too detailed up here, because if you have a lot of details in here, then you gotta have a lot of details up there too. So by leaving it rough like this, we tend to not look at this as much, and we keep focusing down here, up here, right? So you can see how you can do hair relatively quickly. Just a lot of little flickering, and try to get the gradations. Find the highlights, leave the highlights, and then start making these areas darker and darker, and then slowly come about. So make this a little bit darker here. Okay, and then for these individual strands, now you can go back in and let's just say I'm just gonna do that. You know, make a couple loose strands, just a little bit, you know, just to break it up a little bit. You know, if I see if I can use the electronic eraser, I go in and just go. Let's see, I'll just make a couple. So I'll do something like that. Well, that might not be the right flow, but just kind of want to show you how you can bring back some of the hair by erasing out things like that. I mean, that's a really, actually that's a very bad flow because it kind of breaks up the hair right there. But yeah, I just kind of want to show you that. Okay, so I'm doing this with a 4B. So let me do the other side, and I'm gonna use a 6B and show you how much quicker it is with a 6B. Actually, this is a little bit sharp. All right, so with a 6B, I'm gonna do this side with a 6B, and I'll be able to shade it a lot faster. Let's say, all right, let's just go for it. I'm not gonna, because the strokes are softer and broader. Even though this is kind of sharp right now, I can still, you know, cover a lot more area. You see how soft the strokes are? And then I see this clump here. And I'm not going to be as careful because with a 6B, I kind of want to have these kind of, well, be a good contrast to show you what, you know, different ways of shading hair. I mean, it's still similar to what I did earlier on that side, but it's going to be a little bit softer, quicker. Okay, so like, just trying to follow, and then having these highlights, you know, darks and highlights. That's what hair is really all about. So I'm going to come out, this is going to come out. Okay, and then back hair is darker, so I'm going to shade it darker. In here is darker too, and in here this part is really dark, and it's really important to get this part because it separates the two areas right here, right? So, and then back here, big clump here. So this is a big clump, but there's a lot of little strands, right? So I'm gonna do the overall shape first, the overall curvature like that. And then once you have that, you can go in and now you can cut in a few. You know, just cut in a little bit, some dark areas so that you can create more little strands, right? So it feels more complicated than it is. Okay, and then this part curves out. And then, well, let's do this part. This part's kind of weird. All right, so it really curves everywhere. And then this one going in the front. I'll make this darker because this edge right here is really dark. And then this comes out. Okay, and I'm turning my hand a little bit. So here's this clump right here. It's dark here. And then maybe a little bit darker here. So now you get like a little shine, right? Just a little bit of shine because small curls will have obviously more shine, right? Because it's like a smaller cylinder. Okay. Here, coming down. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to look exactly like what I'm drawing. It's just enough to get the flow, right? The overall flow, like, right? All right. So I know this is messy, and if I go in, like, let's say I go in and do it more carefully. See, now I can bring out little individual strands a little bit more. Okay, and then just keep going. Let's go. might erase some of those stuff out later with electric eraser. Or not, I mean, it still looks good, right? It still looks like hair, so I think I left enough of the white in this one. So let's give it a little bit more flow. So like broad areas like this is kind of boring. So let's give in, let's just cut in a few darker lines like this so you can break up that area. See, now it looks like there's, now there's, like a couple of strands going through. And right here around her face. Yeah, I really like this softness, it's just so soft. Now that, my pencil's a little bit more blunt, it's a lot freer. I'm able to actually, it feels a lot better than the 4B. Okay, and then up here, I can do this kind of awkward position. I can turn my hand a little bit. So even here, there's a little bit of clump. All right, so you can see, let's see, I'm looking at the camera. Yeah, this side's cleaner, obviously, because I'm doing it with 4B and this is 6B. But I did it a little bit less patient, a little bit faster, so that's why it looks a little bit rougher on this side. But you see how you can, do hair. It's a little bit painful, but it's not too bad at this size. Again, if you draw it bigger, it will be a little bit more painful. So it depends on, how much time you want to spend on it. But with this, it was like, I don't know, like 15 minutes. Not too bad, right? I mean, for hair. So in terms of look, personally, I like the 6B a lot better. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to push this anymore because it's more of the same. So with wavy hair, very important to identify the clumps. Just kind of sketch it in there. These are almost like, little banana shapes. Sketch those in and then start shading, and then, just be aware of the dark areas and the light areas, and because that's kind of push in and out all these different strands. All right, so I hope you guys find this useful in drawing hair, and if you do, please give me a thumbs up or share my videos, and yeah, check out my other drawing hair videos because we have many different hairstyles. All right, so I hope you guys like this, and I will see you next time.